On the night of January 31st, 2026, a family finished dinner together in the quiet foothills north of Tucson, Arizona. An 84-year-old grandmother said goodnight to her daughter and son-in-law, climbed into their car, and rode home through the dark desert streets to a house she had lived in for more than 50 years. Her son-in-law walked her to the door at around 10 o'clock that evening, watched her step inside, and drove away. It was the last time anyone saw Nancy Guthrie alive. By the following morning, she had simply vanished. Her phone sat untouched on a table inside the house. Her daily medication was still in the cabinet. The doors were propped open, and on the front porch, investigators found something that turned a missing person report into a full-blown criminal investigation. Drops of blood. Her blood. But the detail that sent this case spiraling into national headlines was not the blood. It was what the doorbell camera captured in the dead of night. A figure, masked from head to toe, carrying a handgun holster, approached her front door at nearly 2 in the morning. The camera disconnected at 1:47 a.m. Motion was detected again at 2:12 a.m. And by 2:28 a.m., the app connected to Nancy Guthrie's pacemaker lost its signal from her phone. She was gone, and whoever took her knew exactly what they were doing. Nancy Guthrie is the mother of Savannah Guthrie, one of the most recognizable news anchors in America, and the co-host of NBC's Today Show. That connection alone would have made this story a media event, but the reason this case has consumed investigators, analysts, and millions of viewers across the country is not because of who Nancy's daughter is. It is because of what the evidence reveals about the person who took her. This was not random. This was not a break-in gone wrong. This was a planned, targeted abduction of a vulnerable elderly woman living alone. And every new piece of evidence points in the same chilling direction. Someone local, someone who already knew her, someone who had been watching. The investigation moved fast in those first hours. The Pima County Sheriff's Department, working alongside the FBI, U.S. Customs and Border Protection, and search and rescue teams, descended on the quiet Catalina foothills neighborhood. Deputies canvassed the streets lined with towering saguaro cacti and long winding driveways. They knocked on doors. They asked for camera footage. They searched the desert brush with dogs and helicopters. Within days, ransom notes began surfacing. A CBS affiliate in Tucson received a letter demanding payment in cryptocurrency for Nancy's release. The notes included deadlines: February 5th, then February 9th. Both passed without any proof of life. The family recorded video responses. They said they would pay. They begged for a sign that their mother was still alive. None came. Then, on February 10th, the FBI released the footage that changed everything. Recovered from residual data buried deep in the back-end servers of Google's Nest camera system, the video showed a suspect in terrifying detail. Ski mask, gloves, a jacket zipped to the chin, a flashlight clenched between his teeth as he reached toward the lens and covered it with vegetation before ripping the entire camera off the wall. The FBI calculated his height using the fixed dimensions of the entryway arch. He was 5 feet 9 to 5 feet 10 inches tall, with an average build. He was carrying a black 25-liter Ozark trail hiker pack, a backpack sold exclusively at Walmart. Within 24 hours, more than 4,000 tips flooded the Pima County Sheriff's Department. Within a week, that number climbed past 18,000. But here is where the case took a turn that most people missed entirely. The FBI released 2 separate images from that doorbell camera. In one image, the suspect carries a backpack. In the other, he does not. Sources close to the investigation told CNN that those 2 photos were not taken on the same night. One was captured on February 1st, the night Nancy disappeared. The other may have been taken weeks earlier, possibly on January 11th. Investigators had been quietly asking neighbors for footage from that specific evening, between 9 p.m. and midnight, without explaining why. Think about what that means. This person did not just show up on Nancy Guthrie's porch once. He came before, possibly weeks before. He stood at her door, examined her security setup, studied the camera, and left. Then he came back to finish the job. That is not the behavior of a stranger passing through town. That is someone who had time to plan, time to observe, and time to return. Someone operating within driving distance, someone familiar with the neighborhood. And the family seems to believe the same thing. In a statement released through a Tucson NBC affiliate, Nancy's children and their spouses wrote that they believe it is Tucsonans and the greater southern Arizona community that hold the key to finding resolution in this case. They asked neighbors to consult camera footage, journal notes, text messages, and personal observations tied to two specific timeframes: January 31st and the early hours of February 1st, and the late evening of January 11th. That was not a generic plea. That was a family pointing directly at their own community and saying, "Someone here knows something." Now consider another detail that surfaced weeks into the investigation, one that crime analysts seized on immediately. During the month of January, Nancy Guthrie had electrical work done inside her home. A full electrical panel had to be replaced and upgraded. The job required special tools and at least a couple of days of work by a crew inside the residence. Investigative reporter Dave Mack broke the story on Nancy Grace's Crime Stories podcast. The timing was impossible to ignore. Workers were inside Nancy's home, seeing her security system, seeing her daily routine, seeing that she lived alone, possibly learning about her connection to one of the most famous news anchors in America. And then, just days after the work was completed, she vanished. Security expert Brian Fitzgibbons explained that investigators would be looking at every person associated with that contractor's account. Who was on the crew? Who saw the work order? Who knew the job was being done at that address? Who might have mentioned it to someone else? Because in cases like this, the critical question is not just who had the motive, it is who had the access. Who knew the layout of the home? Who knew where the cameras were mounted? Who knew the front door had a heavy metal security gate that would make entry from the front nearly impossible without help? That last detail came from a neighbor named Laura, who spoke with News Nation correspondent Brian Enton. She told him that a large metal security gate blocked the front entrance, meaning the masked figure on the porch footage might not have been trying to enter through the front door at all. Some investigators began exploring a theory that a second person was already inside the home when the masked individual appeared on camera, and that the person on the porch was waiting to help move Nancy out through the front. If that theory holds, it raises an even more disturbing question. How did someone get inside the house without triggering the security system? The answer potentially is that they already knew how to bypass it, because they had been inside before. The FBI has since returned to the Catalina Foothills neighborhood multiple times. Agents knocked on doors again, but this time, they were asking different questions. They wanted names of construction workers and contractors who had been operating in the area. They asked about former neighbors who moved away shortly before Nancy's disappearance. They were not casting a wide net anymore. They were narrowing in on people with local ties. Meanwhile, the forensic side of the investigation hit a wall, and then found a new door. DNA recovered from a black glove, found about 2 miles from Nancy's home, was tested through CODIS, the FBI National Criminal Database that contains nearly 27 million profiles. No match. The DNA on the glove did not connect to anyone in the system, and it also did not match DNA found at her property. Separate DNA evidence recovered at the home told a more complicated story. Sheriff Chris Nanos confirmed that mixed and partial DNA samples were found inside and around the residence. Some of that genetic material did not belong to Nancy, her family, or anyone known to have worked at the house. The sheriff said he believed investigators may have the suspect's DNA, but separating and isolating it from a mixed sample is a painstaking process. That is when investigators turned to forensic investigative genetic genealogy, the same technique that cracked the Golden State Killer case and helped identify Bryan Kohberger in the University of Idaho murders. The process works by uploading a DNA profile to public opt-in databases like GED Match and Family Tree DNA, then building family trees around partial matches until investigators can triangulate on a specific individual. Cece Moore, the chief genetic genealogist at Parabon Nanolabs, said she found the discovery of mixed DNA in the Guthrie case to be hopeful. She explained that after bioinformatics scientists extract the suspect's profile from the mixture, the genealogical search can begin. She made a striking observation. If the person of interest has deep roots in the United States and is of primarily European ancestry, they could potentially be identified in a matter of minutes or hours, because that population group is the most represented in public genealogy databases. But if the suspect or their recent ancestors immigrated from another country, particularly from a population group with less representation in those databases, the process could take significantly longer. Weeks, months, possibly years. As of late March 2026, no suspect has been publicly named. No arrests have been made. The dedicated task force still consists of roughly 20 to 24 investigators. The FBI maintains a $100,000 reward, and the Guthrie family has offered up to $1 million for information leading to Nancy's recovery. Savannah Guthrie, in her first extended interview since her mother's disappearance, sat down with former Today Show colleague Hoda Kotb. She said something that cut through all the forensic analysis and investigative jargon. She said she believes her mother may have been taken because of her. Because someone in Tucson saw an elderly woman living alone and connected her to one of the highest paid journalists in America. Because someone thought they could make quick money. She apologized to her mother on camera. She spoke the words that no child should ever have to say. She said, "If it is because of me, I am so sorry, Mommy." The sheriff has warned the public that whoever did this could strike again. He told residents not to assume they were safe just because the crime happened to the Guthrie family. "Keep your wits about you," he said. And that warning carries a weight that extends far beyond this single case. Because if the evidence is right, and the person who took Nancy Guthrie is someone who lived in her community, someone who walked her streets, someone who perhaps even worked inside her home, then the most terrifying part of this story is not what happened on the night of February 1st. It is that the person responsible may still be there. The family asked the people of Tucson to search their memories, to check old footage, to revisit conversations that seemed ordinary at the time but might carry a different meaning now. They said no detail is too small. Somewhere in the sprawling desert neighborhoods of the Catalina foothills, someone has a piece of this puzzle, a face that does not belong. A vehicle that showed up at the wrong hour. A conversation that suddenly makes sense in a way it did not before. The investigation is not cold. Former FBI Special Agent Jennifer Coffin-Daffer has called this case red hot. The DNA is being processed. The genealogy databases are being searched. The family tree is being built. And when that tree produces a name, everything about this case will change in an instant. Nancy Guthrie has been missing for nearly 2 months. She requires daily medication that was left behind in her home. She has a pacemaker that stopped transmitting the night she disappeared. Her family cannot grieve. They can only ache and wonder. If you found this case as disturbing as I did, subscribe so you do not miss the next update on this case. When it breaks, it is going to break fast.